The raging spate of violence in Nigeria has continued unabated because we believe some certain elements are interested in making a big business of it. Well, that will be the thrust of our program today, Violence-Free World. My name is Kali Ikpe, and my guest on the program today is a very interesting person, a social crusader, anti-corruption crusader. He is a founder of the initiative Follow the Money, Hamza Lawal. You're welcome to our program.
Thank you, Kali, for having me.
Well, Hamza, we're going to come right back and continue this conversation, but right after this special report. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Insurgency in Nigeria has festered with audacious capacity by the day, a trend only possible due to robust funding. Sources of financing for insurgency or terrorism are usually illicit and illegal. The prevalence, therefore, of illicit financial flow in Africa makes it possible for insurgent groups to thrive at the scale that they have on the continent. Chief among these groups are Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram. It is speculated that illicit financial flows from Africa could amount to as much as $50 billion per year. In Nigeria, for instance, it is calculated that $142 billion left the Nigerian economy between 2002 and 2011. No other African country loses more.
There is no doubt about it that illicit financial flows is what Boko Haram depends on to survive. How else do they make their money? They are not on the stock exchange. They don't have a business they are running, and yet they have access to sophisticated arms. They have access to all kinds of military gadgets with which they protect themselves and all of that. So definitely there's somebody there under the table working out financial flows for them, and it's definitely illicit financial flow.
There's no way you're going to legally fund a terrorist organization through regular financial channels. Nobody goes to a bank to put money into the account owned by a Boko Haram or an ISWAP, for instance. So all the funding for terrorist activities are done usually through illicit means.
Illicit financial flow is essentially money illegally earned, transferred, or used, which may be in form of money laundering, tax abuse, market and regulatory abuse, along with practices that go against established rules and norms, including legal obligations to pay tax. Banditry, armed robbery, kidnapping, and terrorism, amongst other vices, have dotted our space and consciousness over the years. But none has been as costly and as deadly as the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast. What began as an ordinary social unrest in the northeast Nigeria in 2002, led by certain Mohammed Yusuf, who was later killed by the Nigerian police, has today turned into a full-scale war. It is estimated that at least 1 million people have died on the account of the Boko Haram insurgency.
Definitely, there are a lot of us who are enjoying the instability in our country. There are persons, high-placed persons, maybe in politics, maybe in business, who have direct or indirect benefit to the chaos in our country today, the lack of peace, the killings and all of that. They benefit from all of that, and so they help to pinch Boko Haram and help them to get financing so that they can keep moving on and continue to cause problems in our country so that we cannot have peace. Our children cannot go to school happily, we can't go to bed across the country. There is trouble here, there and everywhere. Persons who are benefiting from this chaotic situation are those who are helping Boko Haram to continue to succeed.
On a final note, however, it is pertinent to note that while the Nigerian government continues to invest heavily in prosecuting the war, too many secret motives have made the situations frustrating. It will help significantly, therefore, if government intensifies measures to make the teeming youth less attracted to the local insurgency provides, by creating jobs and holding public officials accountable. Tighter surveillance on how monies are moved around will also serve to weaken the financial backbone for the Boko Haram insurgents. An unwavering commitment to the cause is key to achieving a violence-free Nigeria. Welcome back. Hamza, now straight to the conversation. There is this belief that violence has continued on the scale that it is today just because certain elements have decided to make it a big business, like we hinted at the introduction. What do you make of violence now becoming a business? Even though we know it cannot be quoted on the stock exchange or all of that, but it is business and is a steady means of livelihood for certain persons today. Some supposedly looking very normal. What do you say to that?
This is a sad reality, Kali. Between 2011 and 2020, according to SBM, over 7 billion have been paid for ransom. In 2021 alone, that's between January and June, over 10 billion have been paid to ransom.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria. Yes,
10 billion?
Yes, for kidnapping victims. So this is worrisome, and it's obvious that, we're in a state of, I'm even trying to find the right word. We're in a state where this is a national emergency. Because today nobody is safe, nowhere is safe. But it's obvious that, yes, people are making money out of it. It's now an economy. Sadly, the insecurity is now an economy where, people are taken for ransom, where people are being killed like they're just, even animals have rights, let alone human beings. So today in Nigeria, it's really sad and unfortunate.
Now, when you talk of figures like 10 billion, the biggest spenders of money in our economy today is basically government. Do you see the role that government plays in all of this transaction?
Kali,
yes.
Interestingly, with social media, people are even doing fundraising to pay for ransom. I'm a heavy user on Twitter, and you see hashtag on Twitter where people would be raising money and saying go and donate to an account, or even go to GoFundMe to donate for a ransom victim because the family is unable to meet those demands. How can government, or what is the role of government? We're in this mess because of illicit financial flow. And mind you, when kidnappers ask for ransom, be it bandits, be it kidnappers, and even the insurgents, they ask for cash. And then when you have an economy that is big on cash, it's easy for you to clean this money and then move this money around, even go to the FX market, buy, hard currency, and continue to fuel this crisis. So if you even look at what 10 billion can do, 10 billion can build over 200 state-of-the-art primary healthcare centers. And now with COVID-19, that would help, our failing healthcare system. You want to provide access to water. Every local government, the 774, would enjoy clean, portable drinking water with 10 million. If it's school, this would help us reduce the numbers of out-of-school children and get girls back to school. So this is a big economy. And sadly, if government is not able to change that narrative to say that, what we're getting from this insecurity is far worse than what could be, then people would continue. Imagine if a young person who sees that violence is the next new economy in Nigeria. So it means, you could just venture into it, you start small and grow. But government must change that narrative when we don't have time.
Let's look at how this thing has persisted. Now, there's this reality of corporate conspiracy. And by corporate conspiracy, I'm referring to people who ordinarily should provide security for us, who should help the situation, now becoming complicit in the adversity that we face. So many people have been fingered in this matter. Traditional rulers, clergy, government officials, policemen, all sorts. Every day you hear. Even yesterday I was watching television. I heard Governor Bala Usman of Bauchi State talking tough and saying he's not going to tolerate any traditional ruler being compromised anymore or that kind of stuff. What do you say to this reality? I'm sure you suspect something too.
The governor of Zamfara State, Matawala, even at one point suspended a traditional ruler and called the police to investigate him. Yes, I also listened to the governor of Bauchi State. My only issue with him is he should name those names and keep saying, I will. He should, and time is going. Yes, there's been, there's been voices and noise on the corridors saying, there's complicity, there are conspiracy. But even if you look at it, it shows that, yes, there's no data to back this up. There's no evidence to back some of this conspiracy. But there are sabotage. Why would military formation be moving and then the next thing we get news report that they've been hit by the insurgents? How did the insurgents know that our military formation is going this direction and setting up, attack on them? We've seen that government over time have budgeted billions of dollars. We've even taken loan to provide or to procure military hardware. Talking about procurement and contracting, are this information even public on what we're procuring or who is getting this contract? We're talking about billions of dollars, or trillions of naira. Yes, we know security is expensive, even around the world. You have to heavily invest in intelligence. But what are we enjoying from all this investment? Are we enjoying the dividends of all the money going into providing hardwares and intelligence gathering and protecting lives and property? No. And citizens and civil society and activists like myself were asking the military, were asking the government, all this money that is going into insecurity or fighting insecurity, what are the end results? So Kali, it's obvious that someone is really skimming the milk. Someone is making a lot of money from this insecurity. See, if you go to the Northeast, Kali, if you go to Borno today, you won't get a hotel room. They'll tell you, no rooms are available. They've been paid for. Who is paying for
in the
war zone? But mind you, globally, war is an economy. It's a big investment. So I believe that governments must look at this war as ensuring that they're able to provide and meet their campaign promises and the oaths they've taken to secure the lives of every Nigerian. But there's a big conspiracy, yes, but there are no evidence to back those conspiracy, but there are sabotage. And I believe that our military personnel can even do better than what we have. Politics has also played a bigger part in insecurity, because you don't play politics with insecurity. But right now we're playing politics with insecurity.
So everything is being brought into the mix now.
Politics has gone into insecurity. And when you do that, it means that solutions are not nearby. Because when you play with politics, when you play politics with security, it means what happens is, no one is safe, nothing gets done, and then politicians will just keep issuing statements.
Hamza, let's come to this more direct issue of Boko Haram now. It is persistent because some persons are sponsoring it. Sometimes you heard that there's a kind of collaboration with ISWAP and some other bodies. What's going on? We know that it's not possible to fund them formally, directly or indirectly. In fact, there's no directly here. But somehow, some kind of funding is going in there. What do you make of this?
Now, I'll take you through 3 journeys. The first one, let's go back 10, 15 years of our environment, the climate. So if you go to the Lake Chad 10 years or 15 years ago, and even if you look at the data provided by NASA, there's a lot of economic activity in the Lake Chad. You have young people who are crafting boats. You have women who are selling, selling fish. You have, people who are farming in that region. But today, when you go there, we've lost over 90% of the Lake Chad region. That's one. 2, when you go to the northwest, before now, what started was cattle rustling. Yes. They call them bandits. And from cattle rustling, they migrated into full-blown bandits with AK-47. And this time they were attacking communities and also attacking mining sites. I traveled in 2012, 13, 14 to Zamfara State. And I even reported to security agency that, you have to focus your lights on what's happening in the northwest. Now, you talked about funding. How do these people get funding? Yes, we know that ISWAP or all the functional group, they tax people. How do they tax people? Sometimes they go to your farmland and say they'll provide you protection, and then you pay royalty, either with money or you give them grains, or if you're farming rice or corn, you give them. and then that serves as tax. Or when you're traveling to the markets, they set up checkpoints.
Sorry, at their own terms.
Yes. They set up checkpoints, and they tell
because they got guns.
Yes, but they'll tell you that they're guaranteeing your safety. But then you can't say no. Someone with AK-47 is telling you they're going to ensure you're safe, but you have to pay tax. But then you can't say no. You don't have options. Then lastly, Kali, I talked about the mining site, isn't it?
Yes.
The mining site in the northwest are all mostly abandoned. But people, economic activities are still going on there. Who are the miners? Our government had publicly banned mining. They say artisanal mining. I call it unregulated mining even before the crisis. But now, who are these local miners? Because I spoke to a few miners, because our miners in the northwest are very organized and formalized. So they have chairman, they have secretary. Me and the secretary, we always talk because he speaks a bit of English. So we always communicate, and of course I speak a bit of Hausa. And he said right now they can't even stay in their community or their village, let alone the mining site in the forest. So most of them are now in the state capital. But mining activities are ongoing. Mind you, and let me take you to the last journey. How do they make revenue? So they mine gold using mercury to extract the ore. And when they mine it, there are middlemen in the state capital. And I'll use the case study of Zamfara. In Gusau, you have middlemen who buys this gold from you, and then it's transported to Morocco. I've been to Morocco. I followed the gold from Zamfara to Morocco, then to Paris. This is how they make money, and they transact in cash. So that's how they're able to also fund the insurgency, using our own natural resources that are not heavily guarded and regulated. So that's how our wealth leaves the shores of Nigeria. But the income from it are used to create havoc for us as citizens.
And I'm sure somewhere in your mind you must be thinking about a way out of this situation. That will come at the latter part of our discussions. We have wanting you also to touch on ransom, touch also on several other issues related to this funding thing. But that will be when we return from this break. We'll be right back. This is Violence Free World. We'll continue shortly. Welcome back. Hamza, let's continue. Some time back in the previous interview, we had a conversation with the former chairman, then in his capacity as chairman of EFCC, and he told me, that's Ibrahim Magu, that drugs and cybercrime are closely related to funding for Boko Haram and other forms of violence. Is this something that you can relate to as far as this is concerned?
Oh, yes, it is. So when you look at drug intake, because most people who engage in this violence and criminal activity, they don't do this with their senses. They're always high on substance. So yes, and again, the intake of substance is really high. Because when you go to even this mining site, or for people who have shared experience, that have been kidnapped and they came out, they will tell you that these people take they're heavy consumers of substance.
So relate that to cybercrime too.
Now, cybercrime, the next generation of insecurity and intelligence gathering is in this. And I'm glad even the military, some of the military generals say we're facing a cyber warfare. So the war is not only on the ground. In the cyberspace, in the dark cloud, you also engage in illicit financial flow, people hacking your accounts, moving money to offshore accounts, and this money just disappear into thin air. And people who have so much money, an individual who has so much wealth that it's ill-gotten, the only way to sustain that wealth is to fund crisis. You just imagine in 1 second, you just drop 100 billion, cause crisis, and then supply weapon, so there's a correlation between taking drugs and the cyber warfare.
Now, ransom payment, even though you hinted at that at the beginning of the interview, usually is heavy. Kids are taken hostage. Big ransom is being demanded by the hostage takers or the bandits or whoever they are, or by the kidnappers. Somehow, one way or the other, you hear that these people have been left on the hook. Yet government says we do not pay ransom. At what point can we say this is enough? And by the way, where is this money coming from for this ransom to be paid?
Government says they do not subscribe to payment of ransom. They do not negotiate with terrorists. And but yet people get kidnapped, they pay money and they get released, and these people would come public sometime and say, oh yeah, we paid, but they won't give you a figure. But that being said, I'm aware that a member of the National Assembly is sponsoring a bill to criminalize payment of ransom. My only problem is, so you're criminalizing a citizen that is traumatized, because mind you, if someone is kidnapped, it's not just all about the person. The family, every member of the family will be traumatized. And for them, they just want to get back their family member safe. And the government, the National Assembly member, sadly, is saying they're going to criminalize and prosecute the person who pays for ransom. So what about the person who is kidnapping, who is also demanding and receiving ransom?
So it's easier to actually punish who is paying, because that's who you can relate to, that's who you see.
What this means, Kali, simply is government has failed in their responsibility. And when I say government, local government, state government, federal government, traditional governance structure, religious governance structure, home governance structure have failed. Society itself have failed, because we're not like this 20 years ago. But today, society is so messed up that I can't understand why you would bring harm and hurt someone else just because of material wealth. So government itself has failed. And again, where's all this money coming from? I know people, when they get kidnapped, they have to sell their properties. Family members have to contribute, and then social media people, people get emotional about this and they want to contribute, or friends, and relatives. But a lot of money is exchanging hands. And mind you, Kali, the fact that you're kidnapped and you pay ransom does not mean you even come out alive. We've seen instances where, even with the ransom payment, they still go ahead and kill,
And the funny part, does not mean you're not going to be kidnapped a second time.
Yes, because we've seen reports where someone was kidnapped, released, and re-kidnapped again.
Because it's juicy.
Because no one is safe in Nigeria. And it's so juicy. And again, that's why I say government must change that narrative. Because if a young person out there thinks that kidnapping, and Kali, I'm glad I'm talking to you as a media practitioner. There was a big mistake the media people did when they apprehended, what's the name of that kidnapper again? I can't remember. Evans. The way they amplified his story. And I think there's no report or data to back this up. But after Evans' case, kidnapping went on the rise. Because they were showing Evans' wealth and the monies he has made, and how he was so comfortable just from the industry of kidnapping.
So they marketed?
Yes, indirectly, they were marketing Evans, the kidnapper, and kidnapping itself as a venture.
That's a very serious one. Serious indictment of the media. If I were going to ask you, assess the role, aside that, of the media as far as violence generally in Nigeria is concerned, do you find them complicit in something? You just found them, but generally, beyond this point. You
see, the media people are the ones who set and shape narrative. For every conversation we would have, be it politics, governance, education, healthcare, the media are the ones who inform people and set an agenda for us to have a conversation. So I believe that maybe they need to rethink, media practitioners need to rethink. Why can't we be patient for the prosecution of these people who have committed crime? And then you can amplify that if you commit this crime, this would be the end result, rather than amplifying the crime itself and the benefits that the person got from the crime.
That's prescriptive and well said too. Solution-wise, how do you think we can cut off funding to Boko Haram?
I think that first, we must agree that we want to have a cashless economy. I can't understand where government is saying they have a cashless economy. The Minister for the Minister for Information and Digital Economy launched a digital policy, but yet the conditional cash transfer is payment of cash, millions of naira, heap on the table, counting and paying, people under the SIPs. Why are we not ensuring that payments are now done on mobile phones from account to account? Because for you to curb this, you must do away with cash transaction.
Well, Hamza, I think that's a very good point to leave it. At this point, I must thank you very much for obliging me.
Thank you, Kali.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Well, I've been speaking with Hamza Lawal, the managing director, or rather the founder of the initiative Follow the Money. The man has been following the money everywhere, and I'm sure he did a lot of justice to the entire discourse. Same time next week promises even more if you endeavor to be here. Until then, my name is Ikpe. Remember to remain on the road to a violence-free Nigeria. Thank you for watching.
No